you might have realized that I've talked a lot about TV series and holiday specials, especially recently. And I've only covered 2 movies, and only one of them was recent. And people might ask why I don't cover recent movies. But to be honest, I don't get excited for movies anymore. After what happened with Ruby Gillman and how desperately I tried to do absolutely everything to help it to pretty much no avail, it hurts too much. It's a big don't give me hope thing for me that's turned me jaded to pretty much everything. But eventually, I am gonna have to cover more movies. And, well, Kung Fu Panda is probably the only movie coming out soon that I'm actually looking forward to. And yeah, only recently at the time of scripting this, did we actually get literally the first footage on the trailer only 3 months before it releases. Dreamworks, for the love of God, stop doing this! So yeah, if anything, this is pretty timely. But while everyone praises the trilogy, well, look at the first 2 movies, I haven't heard anyone really talk about the Christmas special. Which is kind of weird considering that Kung Fu Panda is one of the 3 Dreamworks franchises that people actually give respect to, and even then, not all the movies. Yeah, Dreamworks does a handful of these, primarily with their most successful series. I don't think the special gets as much attention as Shrek the Halls or the Penguin's Christmas Caper. Well, aside from this one meme, which is freaking hilarious. So, does it deserve to be more obscure, or is it an underrated holiday gift? Let's take a closer look. For a bit of extra context, the Kung Fu Panda Holiday Special aired between the first movie and the second, airing in 2010 when 2 released in 2011. And it's interesting to see how many ideas and aspects from it carry on into the sequels, making it more fitting to the franchise as a whole. So we start out this special with another gorgeous 2D animated scene like how the first film started. It's always a treat when DreamWorks does 2D animation, and this is no exception. The golden colors and contrast work really well together, and the color and atmosphere in this is so incredible, like eye candy. I can't get enough. Though, occasionally some movements feel out of place and almost flash-like. Not to ruin it, it's still fantastic. We also get a pretty cool looking tied lung, like wow, that's awesome. But yeah, this is also a dream sequence that primarily shows off Mr. Pink's feelings about his son. First his joy cooking with him, then his fear of losing him to Tai Lung, and leaving him by himself when he becomes a dragon warrior. When Mr. Ping wakes up, he's worried that Po would leave him too, which he reassures him he is not. Also, I should clarify this is a holiday special, and not so much a Christmas special. Since it's this fantasy animal China, having secular Christmas would be kinda confusing, and it wouldn't work well with the setting. Though I do wonder what animal Santa would be. So instead, we have Winter Festival, which isn't really explained too much, but at least it seems to be a holiday celebrating togetherness, and with a feast. It also seems that special lanterns are hung up too to commemorate family, as they focus on one Po made as a kid that Mr. Ping really cherishes. In fact, both get really excited and ready for the event, until Shifu arrives to give Po some good news. He's been invited to the winter feast at the Jade Palace, where all the notable Kung Fu masters will be attending. Apparently, it's a super important event, and Po's not just invited, he will be hosting it. It's a very big responsibility that Po is eager to accept, but Mr. Ping is very worried about Po leaving him during the holidays. It's actually really interesting that this special brings up Mr. Ping's feeling about losing his son, since it wasn't really shown in the first movie, but did play a part in the second and especially third. So it's surprising that this was the first real introduction to this aspect of the franchise. Though, Shifu says that the winter feast must be elegant and formal and done to perfection, that the common traditions of the festival can't be done to his and Mr. Ping's disappointment. But before they can dwell on it, Po gets called to deal with random bandits. The 5 already got there, and it's like the special does include some nice action, so it's not completely a strange for the franchise. The fight is pretty much just an actual conversation between them and Po about the winter feast, and how Po is hosting it while they're fighting, which is pretty humorous. And even more how everyone, even the bandits, don't think it's a good idea. Po is concerned by their lack of faith in him.
Everyone think I can't do sophisticated.
Did Po just kill that guy with his ass? Also, interesting how this is really the first casual interaction that's shown with the Po and 5 as friends, since it predates 2 and even Legends of Awesomeness. Might cover that one day. Probably not. The 5 say he might need help, as Po is confident in his own abilities. Ooh, nice transition. In the Jade Palace, as everyone's getting ready, Po is disappointed when he hears he can't invite his father to the dinner, and he'll miss the holidays. Though it's interesting how Shifu gives us a bit of his backstory, as he said he left his family to pursue the responsibilities of Kung Fu. We never get any backstory for him in the movies, so it's interesting to hear that he left his family for his ambitions and likely hasn't looked back. It makes the conflict more interesting, as unlike Po, it's likely Shifu hasn't, or at least dropped the importance of family during the holiday seasons, which makes him the opposite of how Po feels. Which also furthers the contrast between Po and Shifu as a whole as well. Po gets overwhelmed by the rules and structure of the feast, making him almost have a realistic depiction of a panic attack. But Shifu also assigns him to select the best chef in the land and offers them the ceremonial golden ladle. In the auditioning ceremony, Po has to pick between them with taste testing, and then accidentally shames and exiles the first chef with an accidental hand movement, which is just so suddenly and brutally dark for the special to do randomly, but it's also really funny. But it also gives him the idea to pick his father as a chef to spend time with him in the feast, but also to decline every other chef's dish. Honestly, I don't see how this isn't even more dishonorable to the chefs than the hand wave, but who knows. This floors me though.
Ew. Sorry, that one really is bad.
Po presents the golden ladle to his dad, but he declines as he can't ignore his own business in the holidays, which he sees as too important for him to open up the shop to everyone, family and friends, and accept everyone with welcoming arms. Which, honestly, is kind of confusing that Ping is so focused on the unity and goodwill part of the holiday, since he's mostly so business-minded about his shop. They even kind of contradict themselves in this short.
Appreciate that you care for all the lonely people.
And lonely people pay extra.
Po is exasperated, thinking it's the only way for them to be together for the holiday, but Mr. Ping respects Po's responsibilities at the Jade Palace. Though it's nice that we can visibly see Mr. Ping's sadness about the situation when both are unhappy inside of how it's turning out. Mr. Ping gives Po his sun lantern, which makes him feel even worse knowing he can't hang it up with him. Po has to quickly get ready for the ceremony without a chef, but the exiled rabbit shows up, whose name is Woha, but you're just gonna call him the rabbit anyway. Who's also voiced distractingly so by Jack McBrayer.
I am not here to dice carrots. I am here to fight you.
Who, yeah, is here to fight Po to the death to regain his honor. And the dude doesn't even use a knife, which is the one weapon a master chef should be able to utilize in a fight. Except for maybe like a meat tenderizer. Maybe you deserve your exile. But that was about as well as you'd expect, as Po has to get everything ready in a montage. Now, it will be funny enough, but it also makes each transition interconnected with everything Po does carry to the next scene. It's a great way of having extra comedy and showing off how unprepared Po is for it, but it does make you really wonder how this works in context. Is Po like literally just randomly teleporting here, or is he just rushing so far in between tasks he's getting in the way of himself? I don't blame him. I'd be super concerned if I suddenly teleported to different areas for prime comedic effect. And there's the meme! Oh, it's so glorious. So, as it finishes, Po has a heart-to-heart with the rabbit on how he failed everyone.
And me. I'm not dead yet.
And also says he can't kung fu everything. Which gives Po an idea to get the Five's help. Which, okay Po, you need their help to set up dinner, but you don't get their help fighting a shape-shifting sorceress. Okay, that's unfair, the movie hasn't come out yet, but from the trailers it's weird that they're not shown at all. But with their help, they use their kung fu to set everything up, which honestly they really shouldn't need to, but hey, it looks really cool. Po also gets the rabbit to help out in the kitchen as the rabbit also tries to off himself, which should be funny, but it hits too close to home. But anyway, they get everything perfected unreasonably well. Guess you really can't do anything with a positive montage.
And show us a passage of time. We're gonna need a montage.
But the Jasmine isn't quite right, and they run to the village to get new Jasmine, and then follow down the entire steps of the palace.
I rifle down a flight of stairs.
We also get to see the festive version of the village, which looks super nice with the night snowfall and warm lights of the windows and lanterns that also gives such a nice Christmas look without it being directly Christmas. Even Po is taken in by the scenery. Though, personally, I don't know, I feel they could have done a bit more with it. Like, really play with the lighting and make it even more homely and magical. But that's just a nitpick, it still looks fantastic. Po also sees the festivities and homeliness of the other villages celebrating the winter festival, and especially after seeing another family's sun lantern, that he feels very remorseful about what he's missing. Now he misses his own family. But he goes back to the Jade Palace, and wow, are we gonna see all the other cool Kung Fu masters? I mean, maybe they'll use the ones we see in the future, it would be so cool! Oh, wait, they're just the same generic pig, goose, and rabbit people they use for the villagers. Well, that's unfair. They did actually introduce Master Rhino, who would be an important character in 2. Well, before he died. And yeah, I do know it would be a lot of unnecessary asset creation, it just would have been cool to see. Though it does make me question, like, if every character is named after their species, how does that work if there are multiple masters of the same species? It's weird. As Shifu urges Po to continue the ceremony, Po is too disheartened about losing the joy of the season with his family, still holding his sun lantern. Po can't bring himself to, and announces that while he's honored for being the host and respects everyone, he can't bring himself to be away from his family and community in the Winter Festival. Po goes back to his dad as both are happy to be with each other as they get to work to prepare their own Winter Festival feast. And I freaking love the lighting and animation and music of this scene. It feels so lively and upbeat. It's surprisingly impressive for something that should feel so inconsequential, but it helps with the joy between father and son visually compared to the icy cold feast at the Jade Palace. Why did this shot go so hard? It drew a huge crowd kind of out of nowhere. Do these guys like not have families, or are the noodles just too good? And even the Furious 5 and the other Kung Fu Masters show up, and it just warms the heart how everyone's having a good time. But that rabbit comes back, remember him, and tries to assassinate Po, but he gives him the golden ladle, which restores his honor. I don't know why he just didn't do that earlier, but at least he had an actual ending. But we see Shifu angrily walking through the snow alone, berating Po in his head for ruining the tradition. It's very important to keep in mind what Shifu said at the beginning, that long ago he left his current duties, so it's likely he legitimately cannot understand why Po would prioritize spending time with his family for the holidays instead of keeping tradition, which does reframe a lot of his actions before and after. But he soon sees how everyone is in the noodle shop, even the 5 and the Masters, having such a great and wonderful time, with the warm glow contrasting so much to the snowy cold. And with that, he realizes that this is perfect itself. He is keen to just walk away and let everyone enjoy themselves, but Po drops in and invites him to the festivities. But Shifu says he doesn't want to disturb anyone, which also shows how much he's really alienated himself from others for so long, which is not only shown from the earlier statement, but also possibly his experiences after training Tai Lung made him colder to everyone. But Po says he's not going to enjoy it without him, as he's part of his family, which is so freaking heartwarming. And Shifu says,
"What goes on in your head, I really don't always understand. But what goes on in your heart will never let us down."
Which is really emblematic of the franchise as a whole. And it ends with everyone welcoming him as it warps out to the Sun Lantern, with Po's new family enjoying the holidays together. What a heartwarming ending. We also get our end credits with really nice illustrations that I'm surprised they got the whole voice cast in on it. Even Jackie Chan for his customary 2 lines per movie. And also this part I'm 100% sure was a blooper from Jack Black that got animated.
That won't stop me from serving some boar. Fried boar.
Hey, I think boars are attending the ceremony. I think that's a good idea. But yeah, to the special itself, compared to the other Christmas specials from Dreamworks I've seen, this is definitely the one with the most heart to it. It really does focus primarily on the characters and emotions in every scene, and also at times beautifully visualizes it through the lighting and animation, and it's fitting for Kung Fu Panda, since it has so much heart in all the movies. It's one of the most respected franchises for a reason. Not only does it have incredible visual style, animation, and action scenes, engaging storytelling and characterization, but it also has so much heart and emotion to it as well, that respect is well earned. It truly deserves its recognition as one of the greatest animated franchise. This holiday special really earned its place in it. Now, I'm not saying it's the greatest thing ever or on par with the actual movies, but I do think it does its job very well. It fits right in with the franchise and can make you feel in the best of ways for the season. And it surprisingly introduces a lot of aspects that would be expanded upon in much more detail later in the series, so it's actually more important than you would think. While so many other holiday specials focus a lot on the giving aspect, this one really just focused on the family and togetherness of the season. And I think that's really important, since so much of the franchise is about the importance of family, identity, and accepting who you are as a person. And especially with that quote at the end that fits it so well. I actually really enjoyed it, and it's now my favorite of the Dreamworks holiday shorts. It just made me feel good all around, and I recommend you give it a watch this season, for the warm feelings inside, or just see how it really affected the series going forward. Plus, with Kung Fu Panda 4 coming out soon, I think it's best to get an appreciation for the franchise before however that movie turns out. And yeah, before I end, I really want to talk about Dreamworks in general. Dreamworks is my favorite animation studio, and I'm not one of those people who act like Puss in Boots 2 is the only movie they ever made. So many of their movies speak to me in ways that no other ones have. There's a reason so many of their movies deal with characters and their personal identities, responsibilities, and insecurities that so many people have. To me, while the best of Disney is like the Mona Lisa, iconic with marvelous structure and arguably perfected, Dreamworks is like Starry Night, with incredible artistry, creativity, and experimentation to bring a piece that resonates inside my soul like nothing else. It can make an even greater experience. And yeah, sure, they may have a reputation of making bad or pandering movies, but they also make such great artistic works, even many of them that turn out the way people think. You never know what to expect, and I love that about it. They're always willing to try something new, even if it might not work out the best. They made some absolute masterpieces that have touched me and millions of other people, movies I personally relate to a lot more than other studios' works. Even in a few movies I absolutely love, and I feel they get the credit they deserve, and some who eventually got it now. They represent so much I love about art and animation, the willingness to experiment, add personal touches, and just embrace creativity and love for the medium and its franchises. And I will always love and support them no matter what. And I seriously cannot wait to see what they'll do next. After all, Christmas is a time of appreciation, and we should always appreciate them.
Somebody do something.